what that is? Discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Let's fucking do this. Then do it. Do it 100%, because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
You gotta be a champion, become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success.
Welcome to episode 73 of The Coach's Show. I'm Coach Mike Bianca, and the magnificent man you see opposite me is Coach Ryan Gray. I told you I was going to do it. This is the podcast where we peer into the minds of the men and women who are shaping the game of paintball one episode at a time. Joining us this evening is none other than the president of Major League Paintball, Tom Cole. Tom's here to give us the inside scoop on a potential new TV deal, a bold test format that could change the way the game is viewed. Operative word there, viewed. The current state of the league, and of course, he'll be taking your questions live from the chat. Whether you're coaching at the highest level or just love the game, this is an episode you don't want to miss. So let's get into it. This episode is brought to you by Maxed Sportswear. If you're a field owner wanting to up your presentation to your customers, get Maxed custom ref and team gear to uniform your field team. Outfit them, the whole thing. Rock and roll with it. It's worth it. Give them a call. BKI, the best knowledge in paintball. Check out the upcoming summer camp. The sign-up link is in the comments. Make sure we get that in the comments there, right? Pros, paint, great food, and an unforgettable experience can be expected at this bad boy, so don't miss out on this. The Cincinnati Coaches Clinic info is out. The link for sign-up is in the show description. We will cover a couple of different things on that particular coaches show. So, I want to talk about that a little bit more. Ryan, can we talk about that at the end? I want to get into that because you and I were sharing some great ideas earlier today. So don't miss out. Sign up for the Coaches Clinic that will be Thursday before the next NXL in Cincinnati from 10 a.m. till noon. I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm really excited about this one. So don't miss out on that. All right. Hey, let's hop into this, Ryan. Sorry, I'm a little wigged out on caffeine right now. So
sorry, I just finished mine. I'm ready to go.
I hear you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
man. So a couple things really quick. Also, we are gonna more than likely have to narrow the size of the clinic because we won't be in the big VIP. We will be on the semi-pro field. So if you're wanting to do the coaches clinic in Cincinnati, you need to get registered. We have several spots that have already been taken. I believe we'll be able to take, if I'm not mistaken, about 7 more to be full. So if you're wanting to do it, you need to get signed up ASAP because then I'm just going to take the sign up offline. And we'll talk about that more after Tom leaves us. Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. We talked, I got a message last week that Tom really wanted to come on from Kevin Fillers, CFO, to talk about some things that are happening kind of around the league, some potential TV things, which is always a great deal. And then from our perspective, when we have Tom on, we always want to talk about kind of the health of the league, what's going on, what are some ways we can help, just to make sure that we're all doing our part. So, yeah, I'm excited about this. In fact, I have a buddy of mine that hasn't really played tournament paintball in like 15 years who only watches the show when Tom's on. Sent me a message and was like, hey, you guys started 7? I said, yeah, we started 7. He's like, cool, I love the Prez. And I was like, really? You do?
That's good to hear, though. That's good to hear. I would love that. And of course, tonight, obviously, we're not on a normal night. We're on Tuesday night. Right. We may not be the best damn interweb one out there, but we love our friends and partners and anybody in paintball who are out there trying to spread the word about our beautiful and incredible sport. So
totally. Yeah. Am I the only person who still wakes up every Tuesday morning looking for a Play the Game podcast?
Yeah. Yeah.
Every Tuesday morning, I still wake up and I pull it up, and then I'm like, oh yeah, damn it, I hope they come back.
Yeah. I go to Sheldon now. On Tuesday mornings, I look for Sheldon's podcast.
Well, I watch them both, right? That was part of the thing I would do on Tuesday morning. I go to the gym, I come home, I do a little yard, I like pop my AirPods in, I do a little yard work. Yeah, it's kind of I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get back on track. Let's get Tom in here. We can start this thing.
Love it. Mr. Cole, welcome.
How we doing, guys?
Doing pretty good.
Sorry
No
about the
crazy
background.
stance.
No, a little technical difficulties on my end. I switched to an iPad for this one, so yeah, we'll see.
I kind of love
how
it.
it works.
Yeah. This makes you. I like this.
Love the natural.
A normal?
Yeah.
Yeah,
More
this is my home in Alabama. Alabama.
Wait, Alabama.
Alabama. I'm in Alabama right now, yeah.
How long are you in Alabama, Tom? We'll talk about that later off the show.
Yeah, think about one day.
Yeah, I guess we lost Mike for a second. He must be having some internet issues. Anyway,
The Alabama internet.
Yep.
We have some storms
Tom-
coming through here, so
brother, like I don't know what's happening right now. Like last week, we were under tornado warnings. Like while I was doing the show, we were under tornado warnings. In fact, the entire day we were under tornado warnings. Saturday we were under tornado warnings. Sunday we're under tornado warnings. Yesterday, no tornado warnings, just severe thunderstorm and aerial flood warnings. So
yeah.
no tornado. And today we're fine, thank goodness. So yeah, it's wild. So we want to just jump right in. Let's start talking about TV.
All right, so we had a discussion. I'm not going to release networks. We'll just go with that. But I got a call right before. I'm trying to judge my time frame here, but right before Atlantic City, I got a call just saying, "Hey, are you guys interested in doing a 4-show series, 30-minute shows?" Yada yada yada. There's some details in there that we were going through or whatever. Just they wanted to make sure that we were interested before they pitched it on up the line. And I, of course, told them, yeah, we had a longer call. And we kind of talked about like the challenges that we're facing with ESPN production, not the show as far as it is, but the production and what they felt about the production and what they had seen. And one of the things they mentioned was, would we go to less bodies on the field? And I, of course, we're as open as we can be to what the direction that the TV guys are trying to give us. And so I threw around the concept of 3-man. They really liked the idea of 3 bodies. They felt it enabled them to build more character, more time on each of the people instead of trying to jump people in. And so I call around, I start kind of talking to everybody about it. And Ryan Moorhead gave me one good insight the other way. And I'll give him a shout out because he's definitely helpful in this situation was, it might be easier to understand, but then it also might bore people fast. So that's one of the negatives of the 3-man, right? Like it may get repetitive. Like one-on-one, obviously the easiest for us to digest as far as a layman consumer, but then also it might get really repetitive after a while. So one of the things that I like to do is play things competitively, right? And see how they work out and see how the team's playing. Because you can never really envision what's going to happen, right? Are people going to play the pocket? People going to run up a lot of points? Is it going to be boring to watch? Yada, yada, yada. And I don't think you can practice it. I don't think you can do something at a just for fun setting because people play different. That's been one of my beliefs since the dawn of time, right? Because when everybody goes out to just play for fun, there's lots of points. There's lots of razzmatazz, people bunkering people bonus balling people doing all sorts of weird stuff that they don't normally do. And then they get in a tournament setting and everything's on the line. Everybody just zones it up and starts covering their lane and doesn't want to make a mistake. And paintball, as fun as it is in so many different ways, watching, 10 guys try not to make a mistake, not the most enjoyable thing I've ever seen in my life. So we're going to do in Cincinnati, we're going to run an exhibition tournament on Thursday that we will then film and supply a what they call a sizzle reel, which is basically a 1 to 3 minute footage from the event, trying to highlight the event at some level. And we will give that to our different media potential people that we're working with right now to see if they have any interests. So, and the format that we're pitching right now would be a 7. We're basically cutting everything in half, right? Because we only have one day to do everything. So the next format may be a longer, whatever format, but basically we play a 7-minute match, 3v3, and we would do limited paint to 4 pods for the pros. And right now we're going to head, Ryan.
You're getting ahead of the game a little bit.
All right,
You're talking about the format things, all
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So let's not move into that part yet. Let's
All
stay
right,
kind of.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
No,
we
it's
can-
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can tell you're excited because normally you don't talk this fast. And
Yeah,
You
I
talk
don't-
a lot, but not
yeah,
this
I mean,
fast.
yeah, but not this fast. And I don't mean that derogatorily. I was like, he is excited.
Yeah.
A couple of quick questions. So I do like the idea that, okay, with the reduced bodies, we can have more of a, I guess you would call it character development. Is that what they're talking
Correct.
about?
Yep,
Like,
exactly what I'm
because-
talking about.
because if you care about a person and their background and who they are, then you're more likely to cheer for them, whether they're riding a bull or shooting a paintball gun, right? So
Correct.
that's the idea. So, okay, I can understand that. So this is going to be kind of a pilot. You're going to shoot like an exhibition here.
Yep.
Now, are you going to try and, excuse me, I'm sorry. Are you going to try and do that same type of concept for this, or are you just trying to show the action portion of it with this exhibition?
I don't really understand that question.
So what I'm trying to get at is, okay, the people have come to you and saying, hey, we want to create this with less people so we can do more character driven
Correct.
stuff. Are we going to try and do the character driven aspect here?
We
At the
would not
exhibition?
be doing that yet. No, we would just be filming the gameplay and try to, because they understand the character driven, right? They understand that once we get less bodies or whatever, that they understand how that works, I believe. It's just how to tie it into the game that we currently play. It would be the same whether we were playing golf, volleyball, or paintball, right? The character development, right? From that side. And we have unique characters, right? So I don't think we're
best.
we're not going to have a hard time developing some characters there, right? So,
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay. So you talk, and I know you don't want to say like network or who it is, and that's fine. But what kind of exposure is this? Is this streaming? Is this celestial? Like what kind of service? Or I want to say it in a way that it doesn't get
how about this?
away,
It would be an acronym that everybody knew. I mean, I think everybody's got a blended linear TV / fast channel type situation. So I would say it's going to be a fast channel. And a fast channel just means with advertising, right?
Right.
An online channel with advertising. So, and that's it. And I said I was excited earlier. Like one of the things that I'm most excited about is whether we make it or not, right? Whether this ends up being a show or wherever we added it, we are now in the discussion. You know what I mean? So people are reaching out to us and saying, are you interested in this offer before we take it to the next level? And this time 2 years ago, we weren't even in the party at all. So we weren't in the Rolodex. So that's what gets me excited. I feel like we're just making good steps. You know what I mean? And so, we're not going to turn away any offers or whatever, but we're at least in the discussions and kind of making stuff happen. So I'm excited about that. I feel like we're in a good place.
Right.
Same. Yeah. And just so you guys know in the chat, like we're tracking what you're asking, and we're documenting some of the questions that we're going to get to once we start kind of getting more into that part of the discussion. How do you like it? What is the point of having it on? Like, what are we trying to accomplish by having it on television? Is it to increase viewership? Is it to try to get more people to play? Like I always ask when I'm talking to anybody about TV stuff, what's the why? Why are we doing this?
Right.
So it's multi-tiered, right? So first, from just a paintball guy, a guy's passionate about paintball, we're trying to create awareness, right? So we want more people to be able to experience the game that we love and that we all grew up playing, right? To have that opportunity. And if you don't know it exists and you don't know how to get involved, then you're missing out, right? So that's our first mission, right? That's my mantra overall, right? Was like, I would like to bring paintball to the most amount of people that it is, because it's been good for me. It's been good for my life. I enjoy it. I've, even the worst day of paintball is better than a lot of the other stuff that we do on a daily basis. So, and whatever. I think paintball is good for the community. I think it's good for everything, right? we very rarely get to play a team sport as an adult, and hang out with our friends and kind of do this whole thing. And I really believe in it, right? So that's the first part. The second part, so the awareness obviously is first, and then after that, it's generating eyeballs. But the only really reason to generate eyeballs other than awareness is for revenue, right? So whether that is, increased sponsorship for the players and the teams, because if you can say, hey, and I'm just going to use the ESPN acronym, right? If you could say, hey, we're on ESPN every Thursday at 8:00 doing a show, then that hat sponsorship just got worth more money. Or that jersey sponsorship or whatever it is, right, for the outside world. So eyes on the players and the teams and the sport increases the sponsorship opportunities for those guys. And also, then the other thing is what it's called a rights fee, right? So that's where the finals thing is. In a perfect world, these pro teams and pro players would be financially viable and not just I'm going to call it a vanity project, probably get me shut down, but we own these teams, but there's not really a financial plus side to owning a pro team, right?
No, it's all
dynasty. No. Yeah, it's a lost leader that leads to nowhere, right? So I'm not doing myself any favors on this call. But it's other than dynasty, I don't even know how many teams are self-sustained. You know what I mean? Without some type of outside money coming in to prop it up. That once again is just for the love of the game. I call it vanity, but it's really the love of the game, right? These guys want their teams to win. That they want their friends to win, and they're cooking up the money because they got the money that some of the players may not have, right? That's the basic foundation of what we've ended up with here. And so rights fees, for a lot of sports, that's 30 to 40% of their revenue that's coming in. And so if we could get those rights fees up, and that's probably going to be a 3 to 5 year thing, and then. But before we're even getting enough rights fees to pay for the production value of the shows, then that money would go back to the teams and the players. And hopefully then we can, hopefully 10 years from now, I'm sitting on this call and we're arguing about salary caps and the players aren't getting enough money in their millions. And I can be like, I remember when you guys were just losing money. So that's my goal. My goal is to work myself into a player trade agreement arguments that I have to have later in life. Because no matter where we end up, we're going to be arguing, right? Someone's going to be bitching about something. So at least they'd be people bitching.
I want to be clear, too, that was like when you and I talked about this, the year that we started the show, you and I kind of had this conversation in like June or July. And I was asking you, like, what is the point? Like, what are we trying to get to? What are we trying to evolve to? And you've always kind of had the same focus that it's like we want to get to a place where the players can all get paid something, no matter what it is, as long as they're all getting paid something, the ownership gets help. Like we want to get to a place where we're healthy enough that everybody can get some sort of piece of the pie based on the value of what they bring. And I love that your focus really hasn't turned away from that. I think a lot of people, I think probably the vast majority, have no idea that that's kind of the focus of what you do, what you're trying to get to. And this ball that we're pushing, this boulder that we're pushing up this mountain is kind of that, right? It's trying to get us to a place where there is a viable end and there could be some monetary value. I hope to God I'm still involved in the sport when that happens, not so I can make money, but more so that I would love to see that happen, right? Just because I know how much money these owners put out on an annual basis, a lot of them, it's obscene how much money some of these guys spend. One of them's in the chat and just made a comment. So, Diego knows, right? He spends he's flying guys over from France, right? Like it's a very expensive thing that we're doing.
Yeah, in a perfect world, even if they weren't at a break-even point, as we're talking purely for the owners right now, right? You would like to think it was an asset that was transferable that could then be sold to maybe generate that money back. And I just watched a program on Formula One talking about the economics of Formula One. And, it wasn't until recently that any of those teams made money. Right. It was basically a burn money type of thing. Just once again, a project just to say I owned a Formula One team and kind of doing that. And maybe some of it funded by the car people that were doing it, but no one was making money. Nothing was even a break even. And now they're starting to make money just recently, which is saying something, right? So that would be the goal to get somewhere. I really, like these guys have pumped, let's shoot Alex from X Factor, right? Like he is, a great guy. He's done everything he can for the sport. You know what I mean? It's like, if I could leave him with being able to say, look, I built X Factor and then, I either sold it or gave it to someone or whatever, but it has a real value now, right? That I would count that as a win in my book.
18 pro seasons that man has been paying money. I would hate and love to see what that tab looks like.
Yeah, no, I mean, and obviously he enjoys it, and he's he's great. You know what I mean? Like, so
he's a great
shout
owner.
out to X Factor there.
We're in a great situation right now where we do have a lot of great owners. Like, and thank God, right? Because without those great owners, we don't have a pro division.
Right. And the players, and that's one of the things you hear these players talk about their value and all that stuff. And there's the value. I'm not diminishing their values, right? But it's all kind of imaginary, right? Because there's no return on that investment, right? So it's not like you're getting a direct return. A win doesn't have a huge financial upside, right? If you play a player $50,000 a year, you would have to sweep the season and not spend any money playing paintball. You know what I mean?
Right.
With one flight or whatever, just to make your money
Right.
back. And so, and we're always at this battle, right? Where we, and you're right about one thing you said earlier, not just the one thing, but where you said, like, we've had one mission, which was to get to this point. And it's because I started asking, like, there's a lot of directions. Everybody's got advice for which direction we should go and what we should do and how the sport should move forward. And all those people are right from their point of view, right? But the final goal, I had to decide what our final goal was going to be from my point of view and try and drive that forward and try and make your decisions based upon that. Because if you jump around between different stuff, then you end up going nowhere. If you go left and you go right, and you go left and you go right, you just end up right back where you started. I'd rather go left forever and hope that I get somewhere. So probably not the best navigation advice.
This is not NASCAR.
This is not NASCAR.
Formula One.
Yeah.
Now there was a lot of money in that. Don't
There's
get me
a lot
wrong.
of money in all those.
There is now.
They spend a lot of money on it.
That's right.
Right.
So we've been trying to get to that mission, and one of the things that we've done as an industry, or as a pro team, let's go with the pro tour portion of it, right? We always have made the decision, because we're all players or we love the game. We always make the decision on more time on the field, a better game, a better format, better refs, more paint, whatever the thing at the time is that we're trying to make the game better. And that has eroded our prize packages, right? I'll probably get grief for this too, but we got paid more money in prize package in the 90s than we do now. And it's because it is significantly easier to say, we're going to collect $3,000 and 10 of you guys go run around the woods with no refs. And whoever comes out with that flag wins the money, as it is to do what we do now, which is, that entire apparatus that we're building and moving around. And we've done that to move the game forward. But, we now, we need to constantly think about how the TV view of it is and whether that's going to save the game, right? There's a lot of people that debate whether that's not it, right? And I don't 100% disagree with that, but I'm like, if I don't give it my all or we don't give it our all at this point, we won't ever know. It's sort of like telling your guy that we should take the snake with the break, right? If every time he pussyfoots around and he kind of wants to slow up and shoot, see if it's clear, or, whatever he does to not get in there. And he's like, see, I told you I was right. I'm like, how about just once you run really fast to it? And then if you never get in there, then it's my fault. But up until then, we're never really going to know if you can get in there. So that's my coach's plug. So that's kind of where
you guys don't take that advice.
Yeah, don't.
But what?
You guys don't. I said you guys don't take that advice, though.
Yeah. So yeah, you either try it or you don't, right? So you can't pussyfoot around. I guess that's the word I'm using.
I love it. That's
So
careful.
Oh,
Careful.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Oh
to
my
say.
gosh, we're gonna get banned. All right. So, Mike, do you have any other questions about the TV stuff, or you want to move to the format?
No, we can move on to that. I mean, I think he covered a lot there, right? We talked about what was the goal, and that's something that I think is important to a lot of people. Like you said, Tom, not many people think that's the way to go. There's some people who say we just need to be happy in our niche and call it a day. So, whatever. And I agree with you until you try, until you know.
And that's it would be so much easier for me not to do this part of it, right? Like this is a time suck. on our side, and so, yeah, if this doesn't work, then we could go back and just, start playing 15 man in the woods again with 12 grams or something. I don't know. You know what I mean? But
Hey,
I'm
gonna bring this question or this. It's a kind of a question and a statement, but it's got question marks, but it's really a statement. I'm gonna bring it in and I know the answer to this because of how often I do talk to Kevin Fillers, but I'll let you answer it. So, RIK Justin says, Tom, what about starting off by giving back some of the profits revenue from the grandstand sales and alcohol sales for the pros having the field? I don't really understand the question. I think he's saying, why don't you give some of those revenues back to the pro teams?
So we do in a backhanded way. So first, there's a reason why we got rid of half of the grandstands and went to free viewing, right? So we'll go with that first question. So if you remember, like 2017, 18, 19, wherever that pre-COVID era, we used to have 2 sets of grandstands. And then we did the math and that we are losing money on the grandstands. So I just cut it in half. And the only reason we have grandstands now is to protect little Bobby, who may be driving 3 hours to come to the tournament and wants to sit with his dad and watch Dynasty play, or watch Fit play. Maybe I should say that now. Come and watch Fit play. And he needs a chance to have a slot that he can buy in advance and reserve. Because that's what we're trying to grow, right? That fandom type of deal. So that's really the only reason we have the grandstands. And then, and if you look at the pricing of what we charge, and people are going to get mad about this, but so if you look at what the pricing, what we charge, look back what we used to charge in 2002. It's almost the same. And the only reason we've been able to keep the pricing down is because of the steps that we've made, either to find additional revenue sources like beer and VIP sales, or the split deck system that we currently have. I mean, I think the PSP was at 3,300 in 2013. Right?
Yeah, I think that is right.
So if you don't think inflation in the past 11, 12 years has gone up more than $200 on $3,300, right?
Right.
Just think of what your hotels cost now compared to what it was. And we also have increased, we increased that cost to our bottom line, right? And so we've managed to keep that price not moving up as fast because of this auxiliary stuff that we're doing. If we were, we'd have to charge significantly more if we weren't doing all that extra stuff. So we're doing all that, taking that risk and doing that extra work and making that ambiance in order to try and get us to that point. So, but good question.
Yeah.
That's a good point. All right, let's move on to the test format.
Yep.
So you've already mentioned that it's kind of 3-man. You've already kind of given us the why because of TV stuff. So we need some tester film so that we can send to them. Is this something like, do you see this being something that is going to be implemented as a Major League Paintball thing or an NXL thing?
I feel like you talked to me in advance of this. There are different options we are looking at. I mean, if you want my perfect world roadmap, would be the traditional sports model of franchises buying in and being part of an organization where everybody benefits and suffers at the same level. So we would basically, if we pick the same model that we had now, we'd have 20 partners in the Major League Paintball League, and each one of those guys would have a permanent franchise that they could then sell and do whatever they wanted with, horse trade with it, whatever. Right. And they would be partners in the journey that we're on, right? So if we lose $1,000, we make $1,000. We're all in it together, right? That would be my perfect roadmap. Whether it's and the format is a second question, right? The design of it should be that we all live and die by the same sword, right? You don't ever want a situation where the relationships are adversarial, where we want one person to fail so that the other person succeeds, right? We really want it to be that everybody succeeds, right? And so if we continue down the same path that we're in right now, what will happen is, in my opinion, is we sign a deal with RKK Network, right? And they say, we're going to give you $50,000, and we dump a bunch of resources and time and sweat equity into it, right? And then you get and you got let's say all 20 teams are participating in it, right? Well, then the competing network's going to come in and say, we're going to offer 100 grand, but we only want to give it to Shock and Dynasty, right? And then now we've just taken away, it's Big Ten, right? I don't follow college football, but some of that's happened in college football where some of these conferences are now losing their stars, and then everyone else is falling off by the wayside, right? And so whereas that's good for the small group, right? Maybe Aftershock and Dynasty benefits greatly from that. The leverages and the NRGs who have also put in a lot of sweat equity and time and have helped build all this, they get left by the wayside. So in a perfect world, we would all be in this together with some type of profit share and risk share and moving forward, right? So that would be Tom's perfect goal.
I think that's
the question.
Yeah.
So
I think that's smart.
And potentially, depending upon what the format would be and how it's going to get structured, right? Because most likely, whatever we do now, even if we do sign with a network right now for this 4-show series or whatever, it will be a pilot, right? So this would probably be a separate event from the NXL. It'd probably be a Major League Paintball cool thing that maybe at a cool venue. Let's say Cancun or something where we're playing at like this huge resort and we just got a certain amount of the pro teams, top 8 or whatever, playing this format, whatever that ends up looking like.
Yeah, and you and I didn't talk about that before, but I just had a feeling that if you were going to do this and it was going to be like a made-for-TV thing, it can't be in an event. Like it can't
Correct.
be like it has to be on its own, off to the side thing that's more of a one-off deal that's run. Because in order to get all of the different bits and pieces to tell the story, you can't do that at an event. The players are too focused on the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and you just don't get a good story.
Right. And we've designed the format, and this isn't just us, right? It's been designed this way since the 90s, right? It's to get a certain amount of games so everybody feels like they're getting their value of their play time because everybody's paying their own way to come play and do all that stuff. A TV thing is a different deal, right? So if you're only playing one match but that's the TV deal, then that's the way it is, right? Like it's a different set of our customer now becomes the spectator as opposed to the player. Where right now our customer is the player and the team, right? So, in the end, the NFL wants to give the viewers what they want with some input from the players, but their game is not being driven by the teams so much as it is by what they think is going to make the game more exciting to watch. I'm sure there's lots of defensive linemen that would love to tackle the quarterback more and put him in the dirt more and hit him harder and while he's looking the wrong way, right? But they've gotten rid of all that because they don't want their star people that sell the seats, get hurt all the time.
Yeah, I
so we're gonna put a fence around Ryan Greenspan as he gets older. We're just gonna kind of make it so that no one could shoot Ryan more than twice. That's not a shot.
At this point, it's hard enough. Like,
God, I was going to say,
shoot that guy.
If you get the opportunity,
it's hard enough to shoot that man.
But he takes it like
I don't know if I've ever shot him.
Takes it like a champ for sure.
Played him a lot of times. I don't know if I've ever shot the man.
He's a great player.
I'd like to get to some of these questions.
That's what I was just about to say. I'm gonna start popping a few of these in here because some of them are really good, and I love this one.
It's my favorite.
Jason Hansen says, "Why can't you Vince McMahon it and have interviews, trash talking storylines before each match? We thought about selling this to Bravo instead of ESPN."
Good questions. We could do the trash talking and story talking and all that stuff. And we probably would do that in the made for, when we do a tournament, that's whatever. Right now we have so much going on and we're turning and burning and the players are like, there's a culture now in the way they do stuff. And so when you break that up, people don't want to go take time to be interviewed because they're getting ready for the next game or whatever. And that's where that true partnership stuff comes in, where once they all realize that they're benefiting from the show, then they're going to want to make the show better.
Yeah.
So
sorry about my audio there. I guess it was coming through my my camera. So Dan, Shelly sent me a message. Was like, dude, I think your audio's wrong.
Good old Dan. Yeah, I mean, as
Yeah,
long as
love
everybody's
him.
interests align, you find everybody works together, right? That's the
Yeah.
In the end, as long as everyone's interests align, you're all gonna work together. I mean, that's
Right.
counterintuitive because sometimes it's an industry we don't, even though our interests are all aligned, because the bigger the game, the better we do. So sometimes we make some short-sighted decisions. But for the most part, if the players got paid more because of a good show, and the teams got paid more because of a good show, and sponsors sold more because of a good show, and we benefited because of a good show, then we're all want a good show.
Yeah.
So
Mike, you want to get the next one?
Yeah, I do. I want to throw this one in here. So the 3-on-3 format, in Icarus's opinion, is too fast. You'll have points that end in seconds. So the format, obviously, I doubt it would be a 1 point takes all. What format would it be?
yeah, it's going to be like a match style format. It's exactly what we do now. And we may end up having to make the match longer, right, for TV. That's, and so let's go through a historical situation, right? And I got quoted before the show saying, no, an idea is not a good idea if it's not going to work. And I stick by that. But some ideas are a good idea that don't work in the process, right? There's some mistakes made in the process. So traditional X-ball,
You just agreed with me.
yeah, I agree with you. We can say that. I agree with you. But we just had it. We were phrasing it differently. The traditional X-ball, the X-ball that created X-ball, right? The thing that Richmond and those guys created back in the day, got a lot of things right. They were doing the same TV deals. They were doing exclusive stuff. A lot of the stuff I didn't agree then as a player and a team owner, because I didn't see the final goals, and I don't think, it was explained that well. But regardless, the mistakes they made was it was too much of a financial burden on the ownership. I mean, the rosters probably had 15 bodies, and you guys are going to know more than me. Yep. Ryan's going to know more than me. 15 bodies. They were shooting 15 balls a second. They were spending like a lot of money practicing and a lot of money on paint. And the industry.
You needed 15 skids to make it through the year.
That's right.
You had to have 15 pallets of paint to make it through the year.
Yeah. And so what's the financial value of 15 skids? It's like,
it's 120 times 30 times 15.
It's a lot. So, and then even forget that part. It's like just trying to have a roster of 15 bodies, flying them in, there's not enough local talent for that, right? Maybe Trauma, maybe Fit can pull something together, but your 15th guy is always going to be weaker. So you're going to end up consolidating and bringing people in from everywhere, right? So all those travel costs, the hotel costs, and then the paint costs, and just the logistics of running a 15-man team. You guys need freaking, 3 coaches now. Imagine what you would need now playing that format. So one of the mistakes they made is not take into effect the cost factor and how long we could burn that money. Because if they were playing a smaller format or a smaller roster or less paint size, they could have maybe burned that money to get to the point where they were at something. Does that make sense? Am I explaining that clearly? So I'm learning from that mistake, and I feel like we need to try and make it. That's one of the reasons why I like smaller, because I think it's going to be less of a financial burden of the team owner, right? Feasibly, a normal person could own a 3-man team if you're only traveling with 4 people. And your third player, if you took all the teams in the NXL right now, even all the way down to semi-pro, their top 3 guys, and obviously there's some greats in there, but the fall off really is player 8 and 9, and maybe even player 5 and 6. But everybody's got 3 good guys, right? Or the disparity gets less, the less bodies you have on the field, right? So I don't have to spend as much money, right, on my roster to try and keep it competitive. So I think we could stay in that game longer as an investment and try and survive longer in that category. So I don't know what question I was really answering that, but I was trying to get to the gist that we're learning from the past and we're trying to keep it affordable. So back to his 3-man, I guess that's what it was. He was saying 3-man's going to be too fast. But then it'll be a lot of points.
Yeah.
Andrew Ormsby says, not sure I understand promoting a format that isn't implemented.
I'll hit a rebuttal. What does he mean by implemented? So we're going to try a format. If it works, then we can implement it.
Yeah, I think it was more like that because it's not already in the pro league.
Right.
I think that's
there's
why.
Not a professional 3-man division right now. right? You're currently
Correct.
running the
Yes,
X
yes.
format.
We are testing something, and we could change to this. And keep in mind, it's the exact same format we're playing now, just with 2 less bodies. Let's clarify that. It's not
Casey
like
Harris says Cancun in December. We're game. Yeah, us
there
too.
you go.
Us too.
Well, I mean, look at the Thailand tournament. That was an amazing visual.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
An
Yes, it
amazing
was.
visual. And so, that would be nice.
Nice. Laughing in 10
trying to
men
scroll through.
ICBL.
What?
You guys in the chats are killing me. I love
I'm
some of
probably
these
better off
commentators.
that I can't see them.
Oh no, none of them are bad. They're
Yeah.
just the sense of humor is hysterical to me.
Oh, I love paintball's people's sense of humor.
Oh yeah.
Some of it is, the best.
Okay, so give all the details on what's happening Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do a tournament. So it's going to be 7 theoretically, right? We're still wrangling the pro teams together to see how many of them are actually going to do it. But in a perfect world, we would do 21 teams. We'll go through the whole list. If anybody says no, then we'll start back over at the top and see if people want to have second lines, right? Because theoretically, if you have a 10-man roster right now, you could put in 2 3-man lines, right? We would get to 21 teams. That would be 7 divisions of 3. Everybody would play 2 games. The winners move on. We either go to 7 or 8 at that point in time to the quarterfinals, and then it goes to single elimination from that point on. And it would be, like I said, a 7-minute match. And to help the pro teams, we're going to try and if you play and you lose your first 2 rounds, and you're done at 10 a.m. or whatever, then we would have practice slots available that you could then use your practice slots at, because a lot of teams have already booked their practice slots and may want to practice if they only got 2 games out of it or whatever. So and so far, every pro team that I've talked to, and I hope I've talked to all of them, have at least been pretty positive about it. They understand where we're trying to get to, and they're willing to try it and see how it goes, right?
I do think that's one of the good things about the pro division, and I've said this for the last 2 or 3 years, is everybody's willing to be helpful.
It's
for the most part.
Unquestionably the best it's ever been, right? I mean, there's never been a time where it's been this not adversarial between my side of the table and their side of the table. And I've sat at both sides of the table, right? So this is the least adversarial it's ever been, in my opinion. And I'm the one that gets the adversary part. So
I sat in those rooms in the late 90s during those damn MPPL meetings, and it was like the bane of my existence to have to sit in those meetings.
They were brutal.
Brutal.
So,
brutal.
And everybody, so we're all, I mean, every player is a little bit better of a business person than we were back then, right? So they understand the finances of it, right? The pro players are not the ones that are typically demanding for the revenue share with the VIP, because they understand there probably is no revenue, because they understand the cost, because just for them to practice how much money they spend, you know what I mean, on a practice, they understand what we're doing. So.
Hey guys, those in the chat, those questions you guys are asking, we'll get to those. If they're not about what we're talking about right now, we'll get to those at the end, because I think they're really good.
They are great questions, and you beat me to starring them. So
okay. Yeah.
All right.
Let's talk about, I think we've kind of beat that one a little bit. Pod limit. Did you mention that?
4 pods.
Okay. 4 pod limit. So 4 pod limit, 7-minute games. Do we have a start time?
8 a.m.
Is there going to be a cost for the grandstands or VIP?
Free. Good question.
Perfect. So grandstands VIP will be open to everybody. So from 10 to noon, you'll be at the coaches clinic, and then you can go watch for free this 3-on-3 tournament. So now you have a reason to get there early Thursday morning. So get there.
Quick clarification. So 7-minute games, 3-on-3. Is there a mercy rule? What's
look at the coaches asking the hard question. No mercies.
No mercies. Okay.
No mercies. And I want, and keep in mind, Jason's really he's the commish, right? So he understands these rules better than I do, but I want it to be total points scored, not differential. So, the argument, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Love that.
The argument is if you beat someone 7-6, is that a better win than a 6-0, right? And so it's not, in my opinion, or it will be in this format. How's that?
Yep.
because everybody knows the parameters. So right now we're under a situation where people are trying to slow play points because they don't want the differential to get out of hand. And I would like to get rid of that. I would rather see a game of people just racking up lots of points than I would everybody worried about the differential later. And the differential is such a anticlimactic kind of way to do that. So
my group's always going to be good with that. Let's go more points scored. We're in.
Yes. Yes. There's a lot of teams. I mean, and we've structured it, the teams just evolve, right? Like as a good coach, you play to the rules, right? If it's, whatever, if you can win a 1-0 game and that's the system, then yeah, let's do it. My job is to incentivize, 9-7 games.
Right.
Yeah. So penalties, minor.
That would be above my.
Yeah, he's not going to know that one.
Yeah, that's deep.
We would love to have Jason on to talk about these things.
We should do this because I have lots of questions.
Come on. Yeah, he will never come on. I've asked him multiple times. He's out. He don't want to do it.
These things are scary. You get held to what you say.
Yeah. I mean,
you hate to misquote a rule on there. I get the out because I can always say, well, I don't really the rule guy, right? I make up my own rules as I'm talking on these shows, and then Jason's got to deal with the consequences of that.
We'd rather you just not say.
Yeah, so Jason go.
Yeah, it's a good question. Joey Konopinski says same layout.
Same layout. No one would do it if it wasn't the same layout. I'd be getting beat.
Yeah. Connor Greenfelder says, will it be live streamed?
The plan is to live stream it. Does no good to try a spectator format if no one's going to watch it.
Yep.
Excellent.
Probably haven't fully told the live stream people this yet, so that'll be tomorrow.
Yeah.
We like to keep them up to date.
You should send Darren a message. Let him know.
Deeply. I'm going to give assume he's watching the show. It's how everybody in our company finds out what's going on.
Love that one.
Yeah, same.
Connor Greenfelder says, will there be a point multiplier when scored under 30 seconds? Mm-hmm.
No. I tell you, it's one of the things we did learn from that trial, the unforeseen consequences of that point multiplier. I've actually always kind of liked the point multiplier, but the problem is that when you get down, it just quadruples it because what happens is when you have to try and win in under 30 seconds, what you're really doing is losing in under 30 seconds. Yeah. And so now the team that, here you are playing fit and you're already down behind a team that's, arguably better than you. And then you have to go into their guns and inside of 30 seconds and they just chop you up and they score another point. And now what do you got to do? You got to win 3 times in 10 seconds in order to get it. So, we had some really lopsided games. Yeah. And once again, for TV, the worst thing you can have is I think Heat, I'm probably once again trouble for saying, I think it was like something like 71-3 or something, one of the games, right? And if you were just scrolling through the TV and you pull up a football game and it was, 91-2, you're going to like, all right, let's go. You want to see a 14-9 game or something and see what's going to happen. Not a 91-0. So,
yeah.
All these are theories. Go with that.
Yeah.
We're vetting them.
Martin Manis says, wait, so a 10-9 game would be better for the winning team than a 5-0 game? Yes, it would be.
From our point of view, yes.
So, again, the idea, Martin, is more points played, right? So, if you had 19 points played instead of 5 points played, from a viewer perspective, it's going to be way more entertaining. So, yeah, it will be more beneficial to just – and as a coach, I love that because it means we can – create a lot of different risk. We can create a lot of different plays. We can test a lot of different things. We want to play as many points as possible. Now, obviously, if I get down 3 points, I got to start thinking about some things. Right.
Well, if you think about it, how many times did we end up on the last day of prelims with 2 good teams that are at 3-2 and the team that's at 2 doesn't want to attack because they don't want to create the differential to be 2 points instead of 1 point. So it's not worth the attack because you don't want to end up at the risk. And I watch those things and I am just furious. Yeah. Just to put that in place. I'm just sitting in the VIP, just furious, wanting someone to go do something. And I get the math, right? So we built the rules, they play to the math. So we have to change the incentives, risk worth reward, right? You would be better off, going into the guns and trying to score a point than you are not doing anything. So I prefer the Hail Mary pass than the let's just, put the ball down on the ground and try not to lose by more than 7.
Yeah. Lots of questions about the layout, right? Obviously, it's if this sticks, is the plan to make the layout smaller, bigger, less bunkers, more bunkers?
So I believe, and once again, this is all stuff that we're going to have to test or whatever, but in my experience, narrowing the field makes less movement. And so we would this size field that we have right now may work with 3-on-3 because it's going to be very dynamic. And I talked to Marcelo about this, and one of his statements is, you can't stop me. You got to look away at some point in time on a 3v3 because there's only so many people to look at you. And so I would prefer to keep that. I don't want a guy on the Dorito side to be able to keep the snake guy in because the field's so narrow. Does that make sense? And so if we keep it a little wide, there's going to be some dynamic moves. And there's still a lot of tweaks, you know what I mean? Maybe we come out with a special 3v3 only map, layouts or whatever in the future. This is baby steps here. We're just trying to see where this goes without incurring a bunch of cost and without a bunch of drama.
Would that be a yeah, I saw that.
What's that? What do we get?
I was laughing at the without a bunch of drama. He's laughing about a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
So should we, and by the way, to put you at ease, Tom, they're not at your expense. There's just funny things like laughing in 10-man ICPL, that sort of comment.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
It makes me laugh. That might be a good transition into these other starred questions.
Go ahead.
Let's hop into this. John Eric Moran, local here in Alabama. Youth division changes. Anything yet?
Good job, Moran. So in Cincinnati, we are going to have both a youth division that is, we will call it, I'm trying to think of the terms here. I'm flat-footed, but basically we're dividing the youth division into 3 levels, right? So we're going to have a level that is using rental guns, which we're going to advertise to the local market. So basically we're going to offer a very reduced day of play for kids to play a tournament setting at an NXL event. And the theory being if they get there and the atmosphere and the parents are there, that they're going to get excited about the game and maybe want to contribute more. And then we're going to have more of a beginners kid division, and then what I call like the BKI kids division, right? We've kids learn fast, right? So a 14-year-old kid that's played for 6 months is going to be way better than a 14-year-old kid that's been playing for 1 month. Whereas at some point in time, Ryan Greenspan's been playing for 19 years, and the guy's been playing for only 11 years. Their difference in skill set isn't as high. But in kids, it's kind of amplified a little bit. So we are seeing that some of these kids are dominating, and our numbers are going down a little bit. And there's been a big push. Moran is one of the people pushing that to kind of like do more for the youth. So that's one of the things we're going to do.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, great. And then
that answers the next question.
It really does. The next question, obviously, from Gabe was a question for anyone on the panel. That's the 3 of us. Where's the focus on the youth? The kids that will buy everything you're selling, kids that will get hooked young and become fans for life. I think you just answered that. Well done. So
yeah, and to clarify, like one of the things that I've always been concerned about was I don't know inherently that the NXL is the place really to start the kids. And so I've always felt like this was more of a local initiative that should really take place. But we, like it or not, we've become the focal point for a lot of stuff. So we're going to introduce this, and I talked to the other promoters, I think Mike and Zudell and Aaron, they've all really kind of like embraced this youth, 3-man kind of thing. So we're just going to try and help that along and right. We'll be the vehicle. And if some point in time we can turn that back over to them, because I don't want to turn us into like team travel ball for kids. Like, I don't want kids to feel like they have to travel in order to compete on some level. I want them to play locally, and if we can bring a big event to them, then let's do that.
That makes me happy. My 10-year-old right now is going nuts about wanting to start a team and play in D6 3-man. And he says his big goal is to go to World Cup and win World Cup. And I'm like, okay.
He's been listening to these podcasts.
So I'm like, slow down.
So there have been several people in the chat talking about somebody's smoke detector. Somebody have
mine.
It's
Tom.
It's Tom.
Whatever. And that's Hanson. Hanson started that. There's no way. There is no way.
Goodness gracious.
By the way, and when Jen finds out, she did want to ask when we were going to dinner, but she said don't, because he'll just blow you off again. So.
Oh man, because I spend so much time at home.
I love it. So, so Luca, he's trying to talk his dad into it. So we'll see. I don't know if that's the best approach. I think he needs some tutelage under Ryan Gray. Actually, that might fly.
It's
Ryan
really hard to coach. It's really hard to coach your own kid. My daughter played volleyball. I grew up playing volleyball, and I coached her until she was about 13, and then I was like, all right, we're done here.
Yeah,
because it began to harm our relationship. But
I asked Dave Painter about that, and he's like, I don't really know. They fired me.
I remember that.
So, so for some reason, I just thought he coached him forever when Eddie was playing, and he's like, nope, that didn't last long. I was like, okay.
No, I remember that.
Yep.
And some of the parents might not like. Some of the parents might not like the way I talk to their kid. So,
yeah, well, you got to be careful with the "my way" or the highway comments, unless you're planning on going on a road trip.
That's right. I love it. All right. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So I
was gonna say we'll save that one kind of to the end because I think that's a really good one.
Yes, it is. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's kind of transition now into kind of the current status of the league. Like we always like to, get an idea of, we growing, we shrinking, what's going on. So how is the league doing right now in terms of growth and stability?
Stability, I'm going to always say we're stable. But we're growing, right? So it's the largest, and everybody, I see people online comment and all this stuff, and they're like talking about the modern era or whatever. This is the largest tournament paintball that's ever been, ever, unquestionably, right? Like we're doing more teams at one event than in the past the leagues would have done in a season. So and Marcel always hits me with the unique players. So we've increased the unique players. We've increased the amount of teams. We've increased the amount of times people are playing. So on all those little KPIs, and this is something actually, so we'll do this. So we'll have to do another show because I don't have all my stuff with me. But like we have some KPIs that we use, right? It's unique players, participation numbers, and total amount of players, right? And so we can give you those numbers and we can measure that. And if people have another number that they think we should be measured on, they can put in the comments and I will try and account for what that number is as far as, if you want to say how many spectators, whatever. I don't know what people feel like our motivation should be or our goals should be or how we're going to get measured. And a KPI just means key performance indicator, right? So that's what we use as a barometer to see whether we're being successful or not. Go ahead, Brian.
We talk about KPIs all the time on this show, so you're good.
Got it. Okay.
They know that one.
So,
they better know what KPI is.
So my KPI right now for me is how many unique players do we have and how many times do they play? Yeah. Right? And both those numbers are through the roof. Compared to 10 years ago when we took over, I think we're up 84% over that time. So that's why I say those numbers are huge. And it's funny because even when I look back, I think of the events like the NPPL and all that stuff, and I felt like they were so big. And then you look at the team counts, you're like, wow, it wasn't as big as we thought. Now, some of that's because the industry spent a lot more money back then as far as their boots and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you got 3 tractor trailers and all that stuff, right? I mean, and we've had some consolidation in the industry, right? Like at least 4 of the sponsors of the NPPL are now under the Core brand, and it's really unreasonable to expect Core to have 4 big, huge booths like they would have had back in the day, right? So as you consolidate that, that has not been ideal for the events. But as far as the team counts and the people playing paintball is huge. Just look at the women's division. You know what I mean? That we've never had 10 women's teams playing, right? Like that's huge growth. So on that side, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we're hitting a home run, but I'm the one that's obviously at bat. So I always think it's a home run. But those numbers to me are, they're great, and it's, team effort, right? The whole industry's behind it. All the teams are behind it. All the staff's behind it. So it's been great.
So Sarah asked this question, and it's literally the next question I have. So I'm going to put it up here. She's Sora, sorry. She's very intelligent, only because she asked this exact same question that I was going to ask. She said it may have already been asked, but as leaders in the sport, what do you see as the biggest obstacle holding paintball back from mainstream growth?
I would say just the cost of what we do and the way we do it. So, and this is always my example when I'm trying to facilitate this. So if we played, let's say we decided to do 4v4 soccer, right? And that's what the sport was that we were going to compare ourselves to, right? So in order to do an exhibition, if I wanted to do an exhibition in Los Angeles for people for 3 days, and I said, we're going to bring in the 20 best 4v4 soccer teams in the world, and we're going to play for 3 days, it would cost almost nothing, because they would play with a ball on a field that already exists, with goals that already exist, with like 2 referees, and they could play all day at no incremental cost, right? And then if I said I was going to do the exact same thing for 3 days to showcase that, and I see this when we went to the what are the games called? The Ochos. When we went to the Ochos, and there was 12 other sports or whatever in that area, the cost to run, there's one of them was kickball, right? They have a field, and they put 4 little things down to be the bases, and they have 1 ball, and the guy kicks it. They don't have any equipment. They don't have any nets. They don't have any refs. They don't have anything. And then I sit next to these guys, and they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I bring in about 5 tractor trailers. We have to have air, so we have to run high pressure gas all over the place. Then we have to bring in tractor trailers of paint, which the paint doesn't disappear. It sits on the ground, and then we got to remove that. We have to put up nets. We have to wear goggles. I mean, it's insane what we've created as a game, and all of that is hard to replicate.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. So like pickleball, right? What does it take to play pickleball? You play pickleball all day with you don't even need the net. It's a perk, kind of want the net. But
and that's always been one of the things, right? Where with most sports, you follow the ball, you follow the action. With us, there's 5,000 paintballs in the air, and
yes,
so
just the infrastructure is just a lot more than most people think. I mean, I talk to these cities, and we're like the largest fringe traveling sport show they've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like, even the Super Bowl has less referees than we'll have.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And even every pro game has less referees than the pro field has.
Right.
For more people.
We're more like a circus than we are a sporting event.
Well, also, I mean, it's like, have you ever seen like the Robin Williams where he talks about golf, and he's like, everything they do, it's like, is it a straight shot? No, it's all over the place, right? It's like, so when you see people get shot, do they call themselves out? No, they're going to hide that, slide, and rub it. Is it easy to see? No. Do they shoot 1 or 2 times? No, they shoot freaking 500 times before they hit a guy. So we're just watching a guy shoot 500 rounds at another guy, and then we got to jump in there and disseminate, and then if the paint, you step on the paintball, does that count? No. Yeah. Right. So we it's a hard game to manage.
Yeah.
And for everybody to have a good time at the same time. So
can you imagine white jerseys and white paint? That would be hard.
Yeah, that we could make it harder.
Yeah.
We could definitely make it harder. But I mean, we've got some experts at not calling themselves out too, right? So, guys with 19 years experience training on how not to get called out. And then, so
yeah.
These are not the hits you're looking for.
These are not the hits you're looking for. Yeah. Yeah.
That probably just aged us right there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a new generation.
Pure Darwinian, right? The prey animal always gets away more than the predator catches them, right? So
yeah,
it's just a rule of numbers.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you want to talk about expensive? Robot refs would be expensive. So
robot refs.
Yeah, and sort of great comment. He says, very good response. Yeah, getting involved, I think, is more important than just the game. Of course, right? That like
spot on.
I agree with what Tom said, and he's talking about it purely from a tournament perspective. But I think the biggest obstacle in front of us is still the cost of entry.
Yeah.
So when you think about what it costs just to go to your local field, rent a gun, and go play for 3 to 4 hours, you're going to spend $45 to $60. That's a lot of money for a lot of people. So it's still the barrier we've always kind of dealt with, and it's gotten better, but the barrier has always been the cost of entry. When there's things out there like pickleball, like just literally you can go buy a basketball, go to the local park and play basketball, and it's free.
Yeah.
So our barrier to entry is always going to be the cost, right? And so the best ways that you can be involved and you can be active and you can help promote is when you can get a larger group together of 10 or more. It's usually cheaper when you go to your local park. They'll give you a deal if it's 10 of you. And inviting as many people as you can to come play who do have the resources to do it is also really important. I always tell my friends, especially the ones that play golf, I'm like, let's go play paintball. It's going to cost you about the same amount of money. You're going to have way more fun. And by the way, you get to shoot at people.
Right.
So, and with that point, not only is it expensive to do, there's also no margin. So the fields that are doing, even though it's expensive for the consumer, the fields really are not making that much money. And the evidence of that and the symptom of that is that there's no franchises, right? There's no one has said there's so much money in this, let's go nationwide with it and do an ad campaign and all that stuff, right? There's just the margins are not there to take it to the next level. And that's one of the challenges, and it's because it's expensive to run.
Yeah.
So
it is like it, and I don't know if there's like some sort of magic answer to that, but it's always the same thing that I think it's been since I started doing this in 1993. It's just to tell as many people as you can. Just talk to as many people as you can about it. I'm terrible now about it, by the way. I get on airplanes and I sit down, and if I'm wearing anything paintball related or reading anything paintball related, I immediately stop so that I don't have to tell the person next to me the same thing that I've told on 150 flights before that. So I'm not probably a very good person to be giving advice about this, but talk to as many people as you can about it.
Well, that's one of the things I like about the Major League Paintball brand name, right? Is it really, from my point of view, I have way more people stop and talk to me now than I did under the NXL brand name,
Totally.
right? And it was such an easy step, right, that we just didn't see in the past, right? So, and Bart has always kind of said that we need paintball in the name, we need paintball in the name. So the Major League Paintball is instantly recognizable for people, and it's definitely sparked a lot of conversations.
Yeah, agreed. All right. We'll ask this last question, and then if there's any more, if you guys have any more in the chat, please pop off, because we're going to cut off probably in about 10 minutes. But if you can wave a magic wand and fix one thing in Major League Paintball right now, what would it be?
You're asking me that question?
Yeah, you're the president of Major League Paintball. I'm asking you that question.
Yes, and you are holding a magic wand.
Oh my God. I'd start with getting out of this question. If I could do a magic wand, I would make, oh God. I don't have a good.
I just heard it. I finally heard it. Everyone keeps talking about it.
What's that? My beeping?
Your beep.
I apologize for my beeping. That would be my wand. We'd sign a big TV deal, right? I feel like that fixes a lot of our problems, right? And I'm not a holy grail guy, right? Chasing this imaginary unicorn thing. But I believe the market is right for emerging sports to have that happen. So it's not that far flung. I'm trying not to sell a dream that I don't think we can deliver on, right? That's been the mistake of my predecessors, I feel sometimes. I believe that a TV deal, not only would it incentivize people to watch the game and want to play the game, but that it would also, we'll call it the spider effect for the cars, right? Like, Yosh and Ryan and all those guys got to continue their career because their parents saw that it had a place to go, right? That they could really make a living off of this and kind of do this, right? So, to get the pro teams legitimized and a pro sport, and then have that, spark interest at the parks and kind of do that trickle down thing, right? We call that pull marketing or whatever, right? Where we're trying to pull people into the sport from what they're seeing. I think that would work great. And that's the steps we're on. So I don't know if a magic wand's necessary, just a little bit of sweat equity and some time.
Yeah.
Loads of
Good.
money.
All right, I'll bring this one in, even though I think you've answered this on every podcast you've been on, but I'll bring it in anyway. Yeah. Brent Osterhage, and I apologize if I did not pronounce your last name correctly. Why can't the NXL invest in local fields and establish constant location to lower the costs, such as MVPS and WCPPL, etc.?
So they already exist, right? So why would I try and go into the WC space or the MVPS space? That's what they do. It's like saying, why doesn't Ruth Chris do a little drive-in like McDonald's does, right? And I'm not saying we're Ruth Chris and McDonald's. I'm saying there's two different business models, and they're already in that space. And we're trying to have a different business model, and we've tried it. And I agree that from a purely a mass logistics kind of thing, I would love to have 5 field events at a paintball park that was all ready when I showed up, and I just landed and went in a plane and watched it. And then when I left, they dealt with the cleanup. But it's also not necessarily what our consumers want. I mean, we did opens and we didn't sell out the opens, and we do majors and we do World Cup. We sell out World Cup. So for some reason, the show is what it is. People want to be at the big event. They don't want to be at the small event. And I'll give you my Ironman running analogy, right? My wife runs Ironmans or has ran an Ironman and runs marathons and stuff. And it's expensive. Let's say it's $2,500 to run an Ironman. They are doing exactly what they could have done the weekend before and the weekend after at the same exact location. They could have ran 26 miles. They could have biked 46 miles, and they could have swam across that bay. But they don't want to do it that weekend. They want to do it the weekend that the other 3,000 people are doing, even though it costs a gazillion times more money because one would be free. And the hotels would be cheaper, and you wouldn't get kicked in the face when you're swimming, as Rab says. There's something and really most of those people are just competing against their own time. They're not even competing against the other people in the race. So it's something about human nature where they want the events to be big and they want it to be grand and they want to feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. And it's not the place we want to be right now. And I'm not saying I like the local park idea. And if we had, really nice parks, that was one of our goals. Like I think we've made this public. We tried to buy land and build like a dream park for tournament play and with all these different bells and whistles. But we just haven't been able to find a good location with that size. And then we would also have to cut down the size of our events. I mean, right now, we're running over 300 teams at event and 600 teams at World Cup. If we ran something at let's just say Giant Park or whatever, he's got 4 fields, maybe 5. We're running 8 to 9, 4, right? So we're running 8 or 9. So we'd have to cut down the stuff by half or make the weeks twice as long. So there's some challenges. So once again, on paper, it looks great, but the experience just isn't there. And that's what people seem to want, is the experience.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say is like this conversation, I think, has been had over 100 times. And I think, and I agree that it would be awesome to be able to do that. You'd have to run it in 2. So you'd have to do 2 separate weekends where you do like these divisions on this weekend and then these divisions on this weekend. And then your costs your savings end up getting saturated by having to bring in the refs 2 different times, or you got to have 2 full different reffing crews. And then you have the division, 4, 5, let's say 3, 4, and 5 play on the first weekend. And then you have 2 semi-pro and pro play on the next weekend. Now these teams don't ever get to watch the semi-pro and pro teams. Like it's not a good formula. You know what I mean? Like the amount of acreage it takes to do what you guys do it's absurd. Like if you just look at the parking area in Atlantic City, which was massive, there were cars everywhere. Right. Like it was absurd.
And you also don't have the trade show, right? We don't have the trade show element if we went to local parks of what the scale it is now. Obviously, we could dumb things down. We don't have the parking typically available. And we're also, keep in mind, what we're doing now is not intrusive to tournament paintball, to paintball parks at all. So if I went to SE Village and we ran a full-blown NXL there, we're shutting that park down for the weekend. And so that is a park that is not open for rental, not open for anything. So all we've done is moved participation around. At least this way, if we're in, Las Vegas for the weekend, SE Village is still running its regular business. And don't get me wrong, I don't disagree that, once again, I think it's a great idea. It's just we have not been able to make that work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Agreed.
Excellent.
Were there any of these other ones?
I was looking through them. There's a lot. That Twitch question is kind of neat.
What up?
Support staff. Questions about support staffs. Questions about, instead of TV, why not Twitch? Streaming.
So Twitch, I don't think anybody's been successful with Twitch yet. So in the mantra I was given was YouTube, right? That's what the TV guys have told me everybody's using is the real barometer of how successful you are. And we have a good YouTube presence. So, and keep in mind, we do have a benefit, and this is talking about the Go Sports thing, right? So Go Sports is putting out, whatever the number is, right? It's expensive to do the broadcast the way we do the broadcast, right? The way Go Sports does the broadcast. So we basically are having this thing filmed for basically break even, because the people that are subscribing to it are covering the cost of the broadcast. And so we basically are having a free broadcast. If let's say it costs $200,000 an event or $100,000 an event, whatever it costs, we would have to generate that revenue in another place if we continue to do that, or just downsize the broadcast. And then we would be back to like, one GoPro in each corner or something, trying to do a free shitty broadcast, as opposed to do a great broadcast that costs a lot of money that you have to subscribe to. And there's no easy answer to these questions. It's all like, you steal 6 from one and then you got to add 6 somewhere else. So it's a process.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Anything else?
From me? No, I was expecting more tough questions. So.
Oh,
We can get real tough if you want.
No, I'm good.
Don't.
Yeah, we can get real tough.
Stop.
I thought we were trying to keep this whole thing positive.
We are. We're trying to keep positive. I meant venue tough questions.
Yes.
That's what I meant. Tough questions.
That's exact. Venued. Got it. All right.
Yeah. I
That's-
do want to touch on this one because I do think it's I brought this up several times. Gabe says, TC, it sounds like you're nope, that's the wrong one. This one. Firebolt Ranch says, does or will Major League Paintball have an advanced promotion team that targets youth and communities before the events, local youth groups, scouts, churches, etc.?
That's a great question. Wow.
Yeah.
Not a good question. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
No,
It's not a new idea. We've been talking about
I
shit
know,
like that
but
for
you
15 years.
you need time, and we did do the Boy Scouts, right? We did that. I spent like
Yeah,
half
but
of my
not
life
like-
at a Boy Scouts retreat. Cost us like $30,000 or something to spend 14 days there. I think it was good for the sport, not necessarily great for the NXL.
We literally buy a damn billboard before we go to venues. Nobody looks at billboards anymore and is going to be like, oh, look, paintball, I'm going to come. You might get 5 people off a damn billboard.
Who said anything about a billboard? Me?
No, I've seen them at venues.
So
when we go to
the cities-
venues,
the
I've
cities
seen
give us,
billboards.
The cities give us billboards a lot of times.
Tell
right?
them we don't want the billboard. Give us marketing dollars that we can use to run
Yeah, they're
on
not-
Instagram, Facebook, social media platforms like YouTube, to be able to run 30-second ads
They
geo-targeted
own
to our audience inside of a 30 to
you'll be-
90 mile radius.
You'll
And
be
then
happy
black
to
out
know-
the damn Go Sports in that 30 to 90 mile radius.
You'll be happy to know that if you already have Go Sports, I don't care what you watch. It's the new people that we really want to try to appeal to, right? If you're already so vested in showing Go Sports, blacking you out is not going to do anything. It's just going to piss you off. Get me mean.
But it'll make the damn pros
So-
stay at the event and the venue, and all those new people who come into the venue and see those guys hanging around, they'll get to be able to hang out with them, talk. They see them on the field, and then they get to see them come off. Like,
I'm going to bring that down to team leadership, coaches.
I don't want to go down
You
this
gotta
rabbit hole
do
because
that.
I
All
get
right, so
real passionate and emotional.
We have
We'll
this
give you
thing
the
called
good
the
thing.
Dynasty Champions Club. So
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're
And we help that. We help you do that. But we are doing Facebook advertising or social media advertising theoretically for Cincinnati for the kids specifically. So we're going to try that and see how that goes. It's all that's more expensive than I would have thought. So we're going to try that and see how it goes on a moderate level. And, and that's one of the things. If we spent, let's just throw a number out. If we spent $50,000 marketing the event to the general public, would we get 50,000 people, or would we get 100 people, or would we get 10 people? That's a number that I don't know, and something we need to test and try and do. We could just give free tickets to the Boy Scout and do different stuff like that. And so those are all good initiatives. It all just takes time and sweat equity, right, and some money.
Yeah.
So
I do want to ask, this will be the very last question we ask, because I think it's important, because I think people get really confused about where the lines are for Major League Paintball. Like, people blame Major League Paintball because their local scene isn't good sometimes. And I'm like, that doesn't have, one thing has nothing to do with the other.
that's
It's not
right.
their responsibility to make your local scene good. Tom, do you feel like the scope of NXL / Major League Paintball is all encompassing, or where do you think your influence is or should be capped at? Example, is the Major League Paintball's responsibility to include a beginner division?
So responsibility is a tricky question, right?
Totally.
In reality, we do a lot of things that we're not responsible for, right? If in the end, do the shareholders or the owners of the league or the players that are participating, we're there to make sure they have a good time and make sure the league's profitable, right? Those are my people that I would have to keep happy, right? So as far as whether we're growing the paintball or we're creating a good image or we're making more people want to play and all that stuff, that's a self-built responsibility, right? That we've taken on. And I've resisted at some levels, right? Like I've always we're not the one-hand solution for everything. But we do have the most reach and probably at this point in time, most of the resources to kind of make this stuff available to people. So, and if we could, and so the question is twofold, right? So should we not do D5 or beginner divisions, right? And allow that to be at the local event? In a perfect world, probably. But the reality is that we are also a pretty epic spectacle to come to. And if your life goal is to, in the end, to play our events, then we should offer that to you, unless it's taking away from someone else, right? And right now, it's economies of scale, right? We need to, we have big events and we want a lot of people there, and we want people from, vertical integration, right? That's the goal of everybody, right? So, and in a purely challenging way, if you run a league somewhere, this isn't communism, right? This isn't me giving you customers, right? It's not my job to make sure if everybody in the world did everything they could to get every customer they could, we'd be better off, right? So I want, 20 MVPSs and WCs and AXBLs, or, all the acronyms out there, right? Slinging it and bringing it and trying to do everything they can to get teams, right? But you got to stop trying to just get, this is me going to go on a tirade. Everybody wants the same teams, right? They want the teams that everybody else has got. When you create a new league, your thought is, I'm going to capture the teams the other league has across the street and bring them my way. You know what I mean? And so we're not growing anything by that. We need to try and have new people and kind of go on down those things. So, so I see both sides of it, right? But I feel like we're the best vehicle. We're going to give a good experience to most people. And so that's something we're trying to do. So yes.
Yeah. Great answer.
Yes, it was.
I mean, perfect example is the summit, right? I don't, it's not really our goal to make sure stores and fields are healthy, but we do have, my natural, I'm a paintball guy and I love paintball and I like stores and fields to be successful. So if we can help bring them together by using our leverage, then let's do it, right? The award show, not really our thing, right? Scenario awards, definitely not our thing, right? But, I made a guy so happy that won, most valuable scenario ambassador, right? That came to Florida and got his trophy for being that, right? It's goodwill for the sport, and we're trying to acknowledge those people. So it wasn't my responsibility to do that. We did that, right?
It was a good touch, though.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Although you got to give away less awards. It's so long.
Yeah. Everybody says that. The one not getting the award, right?
It's so long.
The one
I don't care if I get an award.
So the one award we didn't give away by accident was best fan. And we should have given that away, right? That was my add-in award last year, and I just forgot to add it in this time, and so my bad. She knows who she is.
We all do.
We should have had that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So she could win 2 awards: best fan and most annoying fan for the other team. You know what I mean? So, but awards, what's it hurt to sit there for 5 minutes if it makes someone's day and makes someone else want to be that ambassador? You know what I mean? You got 3 minutes.
I want to shift gears for just 1 second. Sorry, I said that was going to be the last thing. It's not. I have two other things. One, I know we're not going to be here that much longer. I promise.
No, I'm just saying. All I really got to do is change the battery in my smoke detector.
You do got to do that, because if you try to go to sleep with that happening, it's going to be a long night.
Yeah.
You brought up the summit. Is that going to happen again next year?
I would love for that to happen. Kevin is currently rolling his eyes. Might have to trade him sideline coaching to get the summit. But the industry's got to step up and support it, right? It can't be just on us. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, right? Either they see a value in it and they got to help us do it, or they don't and we won't do it. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things. It's sort of like the Summit Awards, right? Let's go to Summit Awards. You know, if you didn't win an award, you didn't come to the summit and support it as we'll pick on the pro guys, right? If you're like, I didn't come because I wasn't up for an award or whatever, you're like, that's not what an award show is. It's there for the people that also didn't win to support the person that won, right? So
it was
theoretically,
packed.
it wasn't packed. It was packed because
It was packed.
venue. There was a lot of pros that weren't there.
Yeah, but it was packed. Like I was sitting with Dan Shelley and his wife, and like I didn't want to move because there was so many people in there.
And you had such a good hiding spot. I went back there to hide for a little while.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
was
that's where I
awesome.
go.
Most people didn't even know I was there. It was great.
Anybody sees me in the corner, I am hiding. That is a fact.
Yeah.
That is a fact. So yes.
Okay.
I would love
And then
for
the
summit to happen. We just need, everybody to work towards that goal. It can't be us trying to push the boulder up the hill, right? There's got to be someone pulling the boulder and someone to hold the boulder when we look away, that kind of stuff. It's got to be a work, whatever, teamwork.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great, because I don't necessarily think it's Major League Paintball's responsibility to do the industry summit. I don't
Right.
So many different people have tried to do it in so many different ways. And then this vendor gets upset for whatever reason and they stop coming. And then this one gets upset for whatever reason. And then they start doing their own thing. And now there's 3 of them over here doing their own thing. You can't make everybody happy. And it's not, I think it's their responsibility to do those things. Like, Christian was saying, I don't think that's a responsibility of the league.
But once again, there's a lot in the end, though, if it's going to help, we don't mind rolling up our sleeves and kind of doing it, right? It was obviously challenged our staff, right? Like, we're not built to run that event. And I thought, when you added that first event, the award show and the summit, that to me was a boom, right? That was a step forward, right? And in a perfect world, if you want to hear my dream, I would want to do it at the Buck Stadium and have the awards at the Buck Stadium. And once again, Kevin's rolled his eyes, but I want to make stuff epic, right? Build it and hope they come type of deal. Sometimes you got.
Is Kevin sitting there with you?
No, he's not. So I'm sure he's on this stuff. I'm sure I'm gonna get a text later. But that would be my dream, right? To make it epic and boom. But everybody's got to put up with the struggles, right? And so I said this quote and the other thing, the most lions endangered, right, throughout the world, in Africa mainly, but they're also in Asia. But they the number one threat to lions is other lions. It's not humans. It's not all these other things. It's other lions. And that's the same thing we have. We don't all work together all the time. We're always trying to carve up our little piece and make sure someone else doesn't get bigger than the other person type of deal. So,
yeah,
that's human nature, I guess, but we'll deal with it.
All right. Lastly, Europe.
I don't think you know what that word means.
I promise.
You keep saying that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
I promise. This is it. Well, like we started talking, I thought of 2 more things, and this is it. Europe. So you have this Commanders Cup or challenge. What's it called? The Challengers Cup.
Contenders Cup.
Contenders Cup.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to get there. It's getting late. Contenders Cup. Is that a tester to find out like whether or not adding in the other divisions to the other events is a feasible thing?
So it's a couple things. Like one, I was worried. We were worried that I use I a lot, but I really mean we. We were worried that if the teams didn't have something to play, amateur teams and those other divisions didn't have something to play, they would totally start fading away. And if they want to play internationally and like travel the circuit or whatever, if we weren't giving them that opportunity, you can't sharpen your sword if you're ever going to get in a sword fight, right? So I wanted to make sure they had something to do and kind of to fit in with where we're at over there as far as running events at parks, kind of what someone else suggested earlier. And it hasn't been that well received, right? Some of it's our fault, right? We haven't been great at marketing it, kind of getting the word out. We're a little spoiled with how easy we fill things up when it's our premier events or whatever. But so yes, it's kind of a pilot to see what those guys want and would they play some of these other events. So, and I'm we're going to make it a great event. Hopefully people decide they want to sign up for it next year. But, and I say this for everyone, I've said it before, like no matter what your format is that you like, you've got to participate in it. You can't just sit and we always make the joke about true X ball, right? Everybody always demands a true X ball. tournament, right? Let's go to True X Ball, True X Ball, True X Ball. Chris Rangel ran one or tried to run one, right? And no one signed up. That's not Chris's fault, right?
Right.
It's
Yep.
it's the consumer's fault. If you want something, then you have to participate. And a funny story: my wife, we lived in New Smyrna, Florida, and one day we were reading a newspaper and it says this iconic ice cream store is going out of business, and how sad it was. And she was like upset that it was shutting down. And I'm like, we've never been. I've lived here for 3 years. I like ice cream. If anyone's got any doubt, I like ice cream. So here we have this classic vintage ice cream shop that we never went to. And now we're upset it's shutting down. Maybe it wouldn't have shut down if we kept going. You know what I mean? So it's almost the consumer's responsibility to, if you want it, then you got to participate in it. And I say that for everybody. Whatever obscure, crazy system you're coming up with, if you think it's cool and a promoter somewhere decides to do it, you got to go. You got to play it. Or it's not going to exist because everybody's not going to do it. And everybody's going to be like, it didn't work. And in the end, if no one participates in it, then it didn't work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, agreed.
That's my advice to everybody. Put your money where your mouth is and play what you want.
All right. That was really it. I promise.
What a great tag too at the end there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys doing the work.
All right, buddy. Go change that
There is no way.
smoke detector battery.
That'll be here. Next show will be on there. Maybe it'll stop beeping by then because the battery will be that dead. Or I'll burn up in a fire. Those are the two options we got.
Don't
get
do
a
that.
ladder. Go change it.
That's it. I agree.
Yeah. All right. We'll work on that.
All
Talk
right.
to you, buddy. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Again,
Awesome.
Always full of thoughts and answers and debate. And it was said earlier in the chat, I don't think people truly appreciate all that Tom does for the paintball community, specifically Major League Paintball. So good
Yeah, it's
stuff.
always interesting when I talk to people about Tom in the league, for sure. And there's always this big misconception about how much money the league makes or has or whatever.
Yes.
And I always laugh, right? Because again, we're a little bit spoiled because we get to, talk to Kevin here and there. And it's always entertaining when I'm like, they made money 1 year, like
Right.
they were gonna make money last year, and then they spent it on the ESPN thing, and they basically broke even. So like,
Yep.
there's just not this overflow of cash like everybody thinks there is. I wish there were, because I'd like them to pay us, but that's fine.
Wouldn't
It's
it be
cool.
nice?
We'll
But
just
I love
keep
these
helping
people who
push
get
the
up
boulder.
there, right? And they start doing the math and they're like, well, with this many entry fees and this is how much they made. So they have to be turning a profit. And they just don't have a true inkling of what goes into what putting on these events. It really is a traveling circus. It really is.
I know what their insurance costs every year because I quoted it this year. And just their insurance alone is a full-time, very successful professional salary.
Yep.
Yeah. Just their insurance alone. So anyway, yeah, it's also good that he is pretty transparent and is willing to kind of have open discussions. So it's pretty awesome. So really quick, you want to talk about the clinic, 5 minutes, and then let's wrap it
we'll
up.
let everyone have their Tuesday night back. So again, we will be having a coaches clinic here in Cincinnati. And we did we put a link in the chat? Can we do that?
It's in the description of the show. So if you're watching on Facebook, it's above. If you're watching on YouTube, it is below.
That's right. So what we're going to do, and I'm really excited about it. First of all, I've enjoyed every clinic we've done, and I always have a good time coming out of there. I always talk and meet great people, great minds. You don't have to be a coach to participate in this. You can be a player, and I promise you'll get just as much out of it, especially from a captain perspective. So I'm really excited about this one because Ryan and I really are getting into the nitty-gritty of things that, and I'm being selfish, that I really love and emphasize regarding coaching. And that is basically, we're going to get into game communication, right? We're going to talk about, and look, when we talk about game communication, understand we're talking about your players making reads on the box, initial calls, right? mid-game adjustments, not just from a coaching perspective on calling the play, but in-game, mid-game adjustments for your players, closing out a point correctly through communication and maneuvering strategy and tactics. We're also going to talk about probably what I believe is the most important aspect if you want to see any sort of success in the paintball world, and that is creating a winning culture. We're going to talk about structuring effective practices. We're going to talk about how you build discipline, how you build and create accountability among your team, setting and maintaining clear expectations. So we're really going to get into that. We're really going to get into building that communication book, building that concept of how to adjust and address and adaptation to your opponent, as well as creating a culture that should lead to eventual success. And I'm really stoked about it.
Yeah. Like it's every time we do one of these, like I go back through my coaching history and I think about how I've done it in the past, right? Like how have I talked about it? How have I described it? What are the building blocks that I have in place for, like, you start here, that gets you to here, that gets you to here, like mastering these different, like getting to these different KPIs, right? Like we got here. Okay. Now it's time to take this step. As I've started doing this with the communication stuff and like literally starting from the box at the beginning of the game and thinking about the mathematics of how a team is breaking out. Now, where are we mid-game, right? Which way are the guns facing? Now, what is the math? And then how do we correct or destroy the equation? Where do we have the advantage? How do we take advantage of the advantage? Like, as I've gone through this whole process, I began to realize, like, okay, I've said these things, but I don't know that I've really coached this exactly the way it needed to be every time I've talked about it.
Right.
So like and again, I've been coaching professional paintball since 2006, right? Like thinking about some of the gaps that I've probably left into this, like doing all of this is literally just thickened, that book, right, that I have of like, okay, for communication, here's the process because I have one in place for like snap shooting, running and gunning, dominance, like zoning, laning. Like I have all of these building blocks for all of these other things. Really, the piece that was missing is the communication stuff. And it really is, Mike, that thing that we always talk about. It's the why, right?
Yes.
I've never had to really sit down step by step from the practice. What do we know about from the practice? Okay, now here's the box setup. What do we know about that box setup from practice?
Right.
What is the probability and likelihood that they go to these spaces? Okay, if they're 2 that way and 3 this way, does that one of those guns from over there come this way, or does one of the guns from over here go that way? And so now, really, even though there's 3 here, there's actually 3 there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like because there's guns that it's been pretty enlightening for me, just kind of creating some of this data. So I'm really excited about the clinic.
Yeah.
I learn every time from the people that we have in the clinic too.
Yeah, you beat me to it. But I do want to piggyback on something you said, right? You talk about how, there's so many gaps and every time you get out there. And it was funny. I was out at a semi-pro team's practice recently, and I was talking about how how difficult paintball players, dad nabbit, how difficult paintball. There it is.
Oh, goodness.
Difficulty. There it is. Adversity. How difficult paintball players try to make certain things. And something clicked and I said, wait a minute, there's a new way to explain this. And it just came out.
Yeah.
So much sense. It was so much linear. And it came from the fact that you and I do this a lot and have conversations a lot. And all of a sudden it was like, wait, ding, this is the easiest way to explain it to this team.
Yeah.
And I just love that. I love watching that light bulb go off, especially with you and I. And you're absolutely right. I love the feedback we get from the participants, right? And there's so many good ideas that go out there. And it's a good time.
Yeah. So Andrew, good question. Andrew Ormsby says, are we allowed to record the coaches clinic, or is BKI? BKI is the only one who can record, produce, and share the clinic, you're welcome to record it if it's only for your use. If you put it out anywhere, unfortunately, we'll have to send you nasty letters, but you are welcome to use it on your own.
Yeah. And you're also going to be given a binder that's going to have a lot of the stuff written down for you already. So you won't have to do a lot of writing.
Yep.
But you will want to take notes, probably, more than likely. So it's the stuff between the lines that you're going to want.
Yeah. So again, if you're interested in doing the clinic, above if you're on Facebook, below if you're on the YouTubes, you can go click it. If you're listening to us on Spotify, it's also in the description of the show. Right. If with that, I think we're out of here, dude.
Yeah, dude. You want to take us home?
Yes, sir. I do want to also say though, hopefully yesterday everybody did take a moment in remembrance and
yes,
for memorializing. And I have a really good friend of mine who lost her husband a few years ago. He was unfortunately in a bad place, in a bad time, and she had a wonderful perspective. She's like, like a lot of people will say like Happy Memorial Day, and she's like, for me, it's not a happy day. It truly is a day to memorialize, what my husband gave. And we have 2 small kids who, don't really know their dad. And anyway, it gave me a lot of perspective. One that I've truly had, just in a different way, in the way she talked about it. And so hopefully you guys all had an opportunity to give thanks, take some flowers to a graveside or something, and, be in the moment. So we thank those who've given all. Yeah.
You can't bring that up and not expect me to have a quote.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So, I think first of all, I think it's ridiculous that we only give them 1 day, but that's just me personally, especially coming from a military family and having lost several friends in the service of this country. I'm trying to remember. It was Roosevelt, wasn't it, that said, those who have long enjoyed such privileges as we enjoy will in time forget that men have died to win them. Yeah. And it's, a lot of us get out there and we think, hey, it's a 3-day weekend. We're going to have burgers and beer and go to the lake, and, but understand why you're able to go have burgers and beer and go to the lake. That's all I ask, right? This nation will remain the land of the free only so long as it is the home of the brave. So God bless all those people who gave their life.
Yeah. So. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you to Tom Cole for joining us tonight. Thank all of you. Great questions in the chat tonight. We really appreciate it. We also appreciate you guys staying on task and not making tonight chaotic. We were a little concerned it could go that direction, and it didn't. So thank you guys very much for your respect and maturity. This episode has been brought to you by Max Sportswear. For all your custom paintball needs, get maxed. BKI, get into the summer camp while spots are still available. Put the sign-up link in the chat as well in the description of the show. Above if you're on Facebook, below if you're on YouTube, below if you're or in the description of the show if you're on Spotify or any of our other podcast outlets. Thank you to Major League Paintball, Major League Paintball Plus, Darren Cessna, Tom Cole, Kevin Fillers, and Alex Sorensen. For Mike Bianca, I'm Ryan Gray. Be responsible.